Hello, good evening. Welcome to episode 29 of the Wulong Talks podcast. Oh, sorry, is it 28 or 29? We're on 29 now, aren't we? I think we are.
Don't know.
Yes, we're on 29.
Time flies when you're having fun, man. Time
Yes,
flies when you're having fun.
does indeed. Welcome. Thanks for joining us this week. My name's Jason, and as always, I'm joined by the crew. We've got up north the big man geek, Big A, Alvin. Say what's up.
Hello. Good evening.
And of course, we're joined by the wrestling kid, Richard, as well. Richard, say what's up, man.
Hello there.
Well, we hope you guys have been all good. Sorry for the little break, but you know how it is. Life, you got to do stuff. It's the way it is. Anyway, we're back. That's the most important thing. We've got quite a few things to talk about this week as well. So we're going to try and get through them as quickly as we can, but hopefully give you more of that entertainment that you love from us as well. So let's jump more or less straight into it. Although, no, I should. We've got enough time to ask how everybody's doing. So yeah, Alvin, how you been, man? You been up to anything?
I've been good. Recently just watched all of Justice League Action, which is the new short form Justice League series on Cartoon Network. And the show's flipping amazing. Like literally is so good. It's just so well done. The animation's brilliant. Like I can't believe that these 10-minute episodes are better than 20-minute episodes of Avengers Assemble. That shouldn't be the case, but it is, and they're just so well written. And it's a great show, and you should definitely check it out.
Where is it? Is it a web series online or?
No, they've got shorts online because I watched the shorts as well, but it's just on Cartoon Network.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, 10-minute episodes isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, remember with when Gennady Tartakovsky did the Clone Wars, and that was like sort of 10-minute
Yeah,
episodes as well, and that was amazing.
yeah. I mean, this is like it's kind of like this, just the same length as an Adventure Time episode, just 10 minutes.
Mm,
That's it, done. Boom. That's it. And well, it starts off with like a four-part split into 10 minutes, and then after that, just 10-minute episodes. Which it surprisingly works really well.
mm.
I don't know how to pull it off. It feels like it's 20 minutes, but it's 10. There's 20 minutes worth of story in like 10-minute episode, or to make it at least feel that way. But it doesn't feel like the story's told too quick. But it's just such a good show. Everything about it is just on point, especially Batman.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Rich Kid, how about you, man? What you been up to?
Yeah. What have I been up to? Destiny. I've been
Oh,
playing
yeah,
Destiny
we're gonna
1.
get
So
to that. Don't worry.
you're gonna get to that, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So basically, so literally, my foot is still in a cast. So I've just been trying to rehab that for the next couple of weeks before I start to go back to training. On Friday, I went to a little concert for a tribute to the Wu-Tang Clan. So some of you might be thinking,
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
odd.
yeah. That was the thing
Yeah,
they advertised on
but
Facebook at the Jazz Cafe, right?
yeah. But anybody who's out there who knows the Wu Tang, basically they're big comic book fans. And I remember Jason, remember back in the day when we used to watch their videos and just like look out for like what characters they were trying to emulate from like what comic book, and
Mm.
even some of the members from the Wu Tang, their names are like from comic book characters. So like Method Man is named Johnny Blaze, which to us old school guys is the original Ghost Rider, not that Robbie Rees or not that Dan Ketch guy that Jason likes, but Johnny Blaze. But yeah, but that was um yeah. So that's what I've been up to really. I've been stuck in the house, so it's just been me just trying to catch up on Voltron season 3. Rereading some old comic
Sick,
books, and pardon, Voltron. I've
sick.
only got
Yeah,
I've only
yeah.
got to the first episode. That first episode was bonkers. Like they really stepped up the pace. I'm like, yeah. And then obviously I've been watching the Game of Thrones, which is it's got back to the original formula of like being good in my eyes. I was just sticking with it because I'd invested a couple of years into it. Apart from that, nothing else. Nothing else off the top of my head.
Cool, fair enough. You've been keeping busy. That's good. That's good. Well, yeah. I mean, I've not been doing much apart from a lot of reading, and one thing we're thinking of doing, listeners, is starting maybe a little book club. The idea being that we're all three of us are readers to a different extent. I mean, we talk about like the comic books that we read and stuff like that on the show, but we also read books too. We're hoping to maybe get an interview with a special guest over the next week or so. So touch wood, fingers crossed, we'll be able to do that. But it's somebody who is a best-selling author, who's actually going to make some time to come and speak to us, which should be dope. So yeah, fingers crossed that will happen. But yeah, we're planning on setting up a book club as well, and making some book recommendations. That is something we'll roll out over the next couple of weeks, but we'll let you guys know what we're going to do with that as well. You're down for that, boys, right? For a little book club
Yeah, yeah, I am.
together?
As
Yeah.
long as the books
Yeah,
are
of
good,
course.
I'm down for that.
Well, even if they're bad, that's something to talk about. So
Ugh.
we could do that too. Um, but yeah, I think that's something interesting and something different for us to do, and I think you listeners might appreciate it as well. For those of you who enjoy your reading. So that's something we'll do. But let's get into the show because we've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, there was San Diego Comic Con that happened a couple of weeks ago now. Quite a few big events occurred during that. And we had a lot of movie news that came out. Now, a lot of it is kind of things that we can't really go into too much of a discussion about because it's things that are up in the air. But we can get like your initial thoughts and see what you guys think. So one of the things that came out was that Noah Hawley, the guy who's behind Legion and the TV series Fargo as well, which is an excellent show, by the way. If you haven't watched it before, watch it. It's definitely worth watching. He said at Comic Con that he's working on a Doctor Doom movie. So quick thoughts, boys, because I haven't discussed this with you. What do you think of a potential movie starring Doctor Doom as the lead character? Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? We could start with you, Alvin.
Put quite simply, nah. Like that idea to me just sounds a bit whack. You know what I mean? It's like I understand him as an antagonist, and he can be done well as an antagonist, but maybe from his perspective, I'm not sure as to what it would offer. Although you said he's involved in it, I do quite like Legion. Thought it was a really good, fresh kind of X-Men related show, although it's not tied into kind of like the main X-Men universe at Fox. But ultimately, I'm not interested.
Cool. Richard, how about you, man?
Not even. Not even. This is. I heard this news as well. Is this going to be a film? It's going to be a film, right?
That's what he's working on. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, listen, you can't even. The Doctor Doom comes off the back of the Fantastic Four. You can't get that right. So why are you going to go and try and create this a film for the villain? I'm not interested in the slightest. Like, I think it's just a it's a poor excuse to maybe try and keep their hands on the franchise of the Fantastic Four in one way or another. Mm, yeah, like yeah, don't even desecrate my ears with that nonsense.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be the contradictory voice, and I'm going to say that actually I think it would be a great idea. The reasons being that one, it's the type of comic book movie that we've never really seen. We haven't really seen a comic book movie that kind of focuses on a villainous character. And that's something different. And I think the genre as a whole needs different. I don't think they can afford to keep just making the same type of movie again and again. I think, people talk about comic book movie fatigue, and I don't think that's necessarily a thing, but I think it will remain not a thing as long as there is different types of movies out there in terms of the types of stories that people are telling. And one of the things we praise the MCU for is the MCU manages to tell different types of stories or different types of movies within the realms of these characters that they use. So Doctor Doom, I think, could be interesting depending on how it's handled, because it's different, and also because number two, the guy who's involved, Noah Hawley, when he said he was doing a Fargo TV series, I remember many people absolutely poo-pooing it and saying, "What are you doing? Basically, like, are you crazy?" Like, number one, that's one of the Coen brothers' best movies ever made. Number two, how the hell are you going to spin a TV story out of Fargo? And not only did he pull it off, he did it with such a plum that the guys won multiple awards for it. And then on top of that, Legion, as he said, is a fantastic show. So I have a lot of faith in his abilities and what he's able to do. obviously there are doubts surrounding how much freedom he'll get from Fox movie station, because it's one thing to do something on TV and another thing to have to deal with people in the movie world. But in principle, I'm not against the idea. I think it might be something different. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Did you not have any other thoughts?
um, yeah, I'm just still not. So I mean, don't get me wrong. Like you've given some very very good points as to why it should work. But it's just one of those things. If it does go ahead, because it had 100 ingredient, or did he? He just mentioned that was it. Nothing else. Is that correct?
Sorry, you were just distorted a minute there. So say that again.
Sorry, I heard when it was just been mentioned and that was it. But have been 100% greenlit for that is going ahead.
Oh no. There's no. As far as I know, there's no green light. But presumably he wouldn't be mentioning it at Comic-Con at a big panel unless he felt very confident it was going to happen. But of course, that's no guarantee that it's going to happen. I mean,
yeah,
it happens all the time in the movie industry. People say, "Yeah, we're doing this, and then 3-4 months down the road, it's been canned because they couldn't get the project off the ground. So it happens. But yeah. As far as I know, it's not like, as in, they've gone into production and everything right now, and they're starting casting and all of that. It's just something he says he's working on. So yeah.
Because even the way how it was announced, it just reminded me of like when Zack Snyder said he was going to do BVS, and he laid down that that quote from from The Dark Knight Returns when Batman's beating up Superman, and the crowd just goes crazy, and us as like real comic book fans, we were like, what? Why even doing this? But I heard that the way how he announced this Doctor Doom movie was going to be in a going to be made. He just said like, I've got 2 words for you for a film that I'm going to make. The first word's Doctor, and the second word is Doom, and even that was poor. I was like, that's there's nothing behind there for me to even go like, oh my god, like he's doing this. I don't know, like I would never say never, but if they are going to do it, they tackle it, and then I'll see whether I eat my words there or just get ready to fucking lambast it like we have any other nonsense that's come out.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely every opportunity for it to go wrong. That's true.
Mm.
There's definitely every opportunity for it to go wrong. But as I said, I'm kind of hopeful because it's of the person who is involved. Whether or not it happens remains to be seen. And as you said, we'll judge it if and when it comes out. But yeah, I'm willing to remain sort of hopeful. Sorry, Alvin, did you want to say something?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, it sounded like you were trying to come in. Okay, well, we'll move on from that. Let us know your thoughts, actually, listeners, as well. Whether you think a Doctor Who movie could even work, or does the idea of it excite you or not? Yeah, let us know. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys think. So do let us know. Right, let's move on, man. So we also at our Comic-Con got a new trailer for Justice League. There was a big kind of hullabaloo before the trailer came out, or the night before the trailer came out, where this news was leaked by the Hollywood Reporter about Ben Affleck's future involvement with the DCEU and with the Justice League and with the Batman. And he then came out on stage at Comic-Con and kind of didn't deny it. I mean, everybody has kind of taken it as he denied it. But he didn't really, if you go back and actually listen to what he's saying. I guess we're going to have to kind of mention it, guys. What do you think about this idea that Warner Brothers may be looking to get rid of Ben Affleck before they start shooting the Batman and recasting? Would that kind of thing bother you? Would you feel any type of way for Ben Affleck in that situation? Or is it just kind of, well, that's Hollywood and those are the dice and that's the way it rolls? Rich, we'll start with you.
I don't know. I'm not even sure if that's even a good thing. Like, I think out of all the superheroes that we've had, the Bat's had the most faces out of all of them, right? And it's almost just like when we do when the new Doctor Who comes or the new James Bond comes, it's hard. Like he's a character as simple as he is. He's a hard character to to bring back into the fold with a new face. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. But in saying that, Ben Affleck, since he joined onto this, me personally, he's never really he's 100% into this thing. He does. I don't know. I'm not sure if he's having flashbacks from like Daredevil and things like that of like being attached to like a character like that. But it's true, like or being attached to like a franchise. He's always a bit like, no, I'm not really cut out for this type of thing. Let me just go back to making my independent films like Good Will Hunting. He looks like someone he really doesn't like the media and doesn't like being lambasted by the media because he's had that type of career. Um, if it's his decision, a good reason why, and I'd back him for that. If it's up to Warner Brothers, well, we've already seen the decision that they've been making in trying to build this universe already. So is it a good idea if it's coming off their back? I don't think so.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it'll do them any favors because now we're gonna have to go after you've already had him in BVS and he's had quite a few people that have been saying that he's the best Batman. That's up for debate. And now you're gonna have to find somebody else we're gonna have to be reintroduced to again. And what if we don't take to them? And already, like I said, they're trying to set up this whole new universe. They're shooting themselves in the foot. That whole DC universe is just, I don't know, it's just a bit messed up at the moment, isn't it? They could easily go into like the comic book version of Jeremy Kyle, the amount of fucking headache that they've been having. So yeah,
Mm.
it's true.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You said like, is it his decision or the studio's one? Because I mean, the way that it was being
Mm.
reported in the Hollywood Reporter, it sounds like it's not his decision. It was the studio's decision.
Mm.
But certainly based on kind of how things have been going previously in terms of that, initially it was announced he was, going to be doing the Batman movie. He was going to direct it. He was going to write it. He was going to produce it, and all of this kind of stuff. And then, as his movie Live by Night came out and it tanked, slowly it was like, yeah, he's not directing it anymore. Oh, and he's not writing it anymore. He's now just starring in it. And yeah, I think you're right. I think maybe there's part of him is thinking, you know what, why am I doing this? If I can, when I write my own movies and direct my own movies, I tend to do pretty well. I'm an Oscar winner. I won an Oscar for Argo, which I wrote myself and I directed myself, or he co-wrote. Um,
Mm.
I can do this stuff myself. I directed The Town, the movie everybody loves. Like, why am I kind of, you know, getting involved in this system? But at the same time, I do think he loves the character of Batman. And on stage, he was kind of like, oh, no, I'd be crazy to turn it down, and all of this kind of thing. But I said it wasn't very clear to me that he was denying that any of this was happening. It wasn't like he came out and said all of this is bullshit. He didn't. He just kind of said, "Oh no, I'd be crazy to turn it down," which is a very good like kind of politician's answer. It's neither a yes or a no. It's just yeah, in the middle, kind of answer. So I don't know. We'll see. Alf, what was your thoughts on the news and how do you kind of see things shaping up with Batman in the future?
I don't know. I think it's weird if they if they do want to recast just because it's part of the Trinity, in it. It's like when they've recast in Marvel, it's usually been like a side character. You know what I mean? Apart from other than the Hulk, and the Incredible Hulk wasn't even a movie that many people like that much anyway, so it didn't really matter when he went from Ed Norton to what's his face, Ruffalo. So it's kind of like a different situation. I think it would be quite jarring to 1 second have Ben Affleck and then the next like a new face, especially when it's supposed to be the same universe. I think, and because Batman's such a major part of that, a major player in that, I think it'll just be odd. I don't know. It's just like get your shit together. You know what I mean? Get your shit together and just fucking get your universe sorted out. In other words, do your laundry, man. You know what I mean?
Mm. You know what they should do? They should just do what they did. You know what they did at the end of Rogue One, where they did that CGI Princess Leia and the CGI Moff
CGI Ben
Tarkin,
Affleck.
yeah? Yeah, no, forget it. Like, if he does want to be part of it, just let the guy go, or whatever. Just CGI Adam West, man. Bring in the original Batman, and I'll be happy with that, man. Like the whole grey outfit and all sorts, mate. I'll be happy with that, man. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see another new face attached to the bat for a good few years. Give it another 10 years, and I'll be happy with that, man.
Yeah, yeah. Although that said, I mean the argument which has been made, which is that you know, when they changed from uh, Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer, nobody really complained
Yeah.
because it was kind of seen as, well, you know, the Batman is like James Bond, or like you said, Richard, or Doctor Who, in the sense that the
Mm.
character is bigger than the actor. So you kind of just, you know, if you need to change somebody, you change them, and you trust that the audience are not going to be too jarred by it. So I suppose from Warner Brothers' point of view, they're thinking, well, you know, why get into the headache of having to keep on somebody who may potentially, and I mean, listeners don't, you know, take to court on this. I don't know, but potentially it may be you know, a negative influence with their universe in general. So it may be better to just kind of ease somebody quietly out the door and bring someone else in. But yeah, as we've spoken, listeners, before on the podcast, I mean, we did a DCEU podcast a little while back, and it's definitely worth listening to, where we kind of talked about the state that it was in at that point, and the shape that it was in. You guys, Rich and Alvin, I don't know if you saw with their Comic Con panel that they announced a new slate of films, and kind of went into like how a lot of films have changed, and that there is now definitely going to be a Suicide Squad sequel, for example. Apparently, they're still intending to do Justice League Dark. Um, the Flash movie has changed into a Flashpoint movie, which, to be honest, I'm not even going to get into that discussion, because that pisses me off. It really pisses me off, and like, we'll be here all night if we start talking about that. But basically, there's been a lot. So I don't know if you guys saw all of this, but a few films have been removed as well. So it's interesting that you know, Cyborg's movie is gone, which I knew for a fact was staying. I was just like, no, I know Cyborg is not getting a solo movie. I'm sorry, but that's not happening. I'm sorry, Cyborg fans, but it's not going to happen. So that's gone.
Hold on. Did you say Cyborg fans?
Yeah.
Yeah, all five of you Cyborg fans. You know, I too back Jason and apologizing. All five of you. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, man.
So that's gone, and I think Gotham City Sirens is gone as well from the
Really?
slate officially. You know, and then there was the news that Dwayne Johnson is the character he's playing, Black Adam, is not going to be in. Sorry, I almost called him Captain Marvel in Shazam. So you know, there's all this kind of change that's still going on behind the scenes. So it's a crazy situation. So yeah, there's a lot of nonsense going on there. But that leads us nicely into the next point, which is about the Justice League trailer. So we got a new Justice League trailer, and I don't know how you guys felt about it. Well, I'll ask you in a minute. But that trailer was, to me, 1,000 times better than the last two trailers that we got. Like 1,000 times better. Like, we finally got a trailer where I felt there was a clear sense of what the plot of the movie is. We finally got a clear sense of who the antagonist is. We finally got some clear differences between the characters. The characters look to be clearly defined in this trailer. And it just was just a whole bunch better than everything they've been cobbling together so far. So, guys, what did you think of the trailer, and does it make you any more excited for Justice League, considering that, you know, previously we've all kind of been a bit down on it in terms of what we've seen and what we've heard? Alvin, you can go first.
You know, I've got to be fucking honest and just kind of just be like, not for me, no. I mean, it's really weird because at this point in the MCU, like we're just about to get Avengers, because like Man of Steel came out, what, 2013 was it? And so
Yeah.
we're at the 5-year mark now, and that pretty much happened with the MCU as well. It's Iron Man came out in 2008 and Avengers came out in 2012, but we were super hyped. Like, I remember Avengers like being like the greatest thing to ever, my eyes to ever see in the cinema, and being super hyped for it. I had friends come up from London to Manchester to see it. You know what I mean? And we're all super excited because we've seen a lot of the MCU movies together. But I don't feel this way about Justice League. It feels like there's not really been that much of a build-up. Maybe it's because I didn't really enjoy Man of Steel much, or Batman v Superman that much. Definitely didn't enjoy Suicide Squad that much at all. And I thought Wonder Woman was pretty all right. But I'm just not hyped. I do think the trailer was, well, it's fucking long. I mean, it was almost 5 minutes long. And like it did put some story elements in there where you see some like mother boxes and whatnot. So, there's shit going on, like involved with like Apocalypse, and obviously Steppenwolf, and obviously there's going to be a dark side thing that it probably leaves into at some point, but it doesn't. I wasn't excited. I mean, there's loads of action, and if I was 12, I'd be fucking losing my mind. But that's not going to hold my interest. I need more than that. I need more. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm a jaded old man now. I have no idea, but like seeing Aquaman flick his hair isn't enough for me to get me pumped. You know what I mean? It's just not. But I do think it was better than the last trailer, though.
Cool.
And also, sorry, one more point.
Yeah,
I'm actually super surprised that the Thor Ragnarok trailer got more views than the Justice League trailer.
I'm not surprised at all.
I am.
But
like 36 million Thor got.
Yeah,
and Justice League got 29 million, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like this is a team up that should have more than Thor Ragnarok. Tons more. Well, I say tons more, 6 million more.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised they got more views, to be honest. But I said we'll go into that. But Rich, go back to the original thing. Your thoughts on the Justice League trailer, and did it make you any more excited for the movie? Did it change your perceptions in any way, or are you still like Alvin, kind of near?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like we can all agree, it was better than the last trailer that they released. So this is the one that came out what, a week, 2 weeks ago. That one, yeah.
Yes.
That's it. It didn't feel like a Zack Snyder film that much. Like the difference between this trailer and the last trailer, like I said, even like Alvin said, this trailer is a bit longer, but this film felt a lot more like a Joss Whedon film. Who we know has like that has done a few reshoots and stuff like that. I actually want to know how much of reshooting he's done. I know they've said that it was a lot of it was initially done already by Zack Snyder, and just had to come and smooth a couple of things over, which is cool and fair enough. But a lot of people have to remember is that Joss Whedon, before or even while he was doing Buffy and Angel and everything else he's done, he was also like so he's helped fix up a couple of scripts here and there and done quite a lot of work, but has always been like a bit of a silent contributor. So I know he's done films like Toy Story, and I mean that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. But Toy Story is it's not a walk in the park film. It's a fucking amazing film. So I'm just interested to see because this trailer is completely different to the last one. I'm still not sold on the majority of the characters. So like you said, Cyborg in there. Just watching that trailer alone, and you understand the reason why Cyborg's solo film has been cancelled. It just seems like this is going to be a Batman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman film with the Flash as as comic relief for the moment, from what I can see. And but then like Alvin said as well, is that this is a team up movie, and I don't feel excited for the team up because there's been no build up, and this is the thing that we always keep coming back to when it comes back to this universe. It's just that it's just like everything just feels rushed, and so it looks better. So we'll have to wait and see in November. That's the thing. We don't love any of these characters. Wonder Woman, like we've already discussed, was an okay film. Flash has appeared for 2 scenes in the whole of DC universe. Cyborg is just that black guy in bad CGI. Wonder Woman, yeah, you did okay. Batman, same thing. Like Ben Affleck, do you really want to be Batman? The only person who looks like he might be knocking it out the park is Alfred, played by Jeremy Irons, and I've forgotten the guy's name who's playing Commissioner Gordon. That's it. Yeah, what's that?
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. Yeah, J.K. Simmons. Yeah. Those are the only 2 people that I'm really interested in seeing them, on screen, because they're thespians, man. They're going to bring a bit of gravitas, to the film, hopefully. And I saw that alone in the trailer. Everybody else who's playing a superhero, and you feel a bit 2D. You still feel very Zack Snyderish to me, even though in the trailer there seems to be a bit more character building in there. But we'll see in November.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah, we'll move on from that at that point. Although I will just say, I think the reason why, personally, why I think Thor Ragnarok has got bigger views for its trailer than Justice League is partly because of what Richard already explained. It's Justice League is an unknown entity to the average audience. You know, to people who are familiar with comic books or familiar with the the animated TV show from a few years back. Um, they will know who Justice League is, but the rest of the world has not been properly introduced to them. The world building that's been done so far with the DCEU has been patchy at best. And again, listeners, we've kind of gone through all of this on our previous podcast about the DCEU, so do check that out if you want like more detail. But it is very patchy, whereas Thor is an established character within the MCU. He's had two movies already. He's appeared in two Avengers movies already. So people kind of know by now who Thor is and what he's about. Then on top of that, you add in another established and well-loved character, the Hulk, into that, and you've got the recipe for something that would excite and interest people a bit more when you bear in mind all of those things. Whereas with Justice League, it's still a bit of a people don't really know what to expect from it, and it's all a bit kind of unclear, I guess, as to what the movie is. Even though I think this trailer, as said, I think it's a much better trailer personally, in terms of sort of clarifying where everything is at from a story point of view and from what they're trying to do with this group of characters. But yeah, it didn't surprise me really that it got more views. But anyway, let's move on. So we also got some big news, of course, from the Marvel panel. We're not going to talk about the Avengers Infinity War leak trailer. I'm sorry, listeners, but the reason being that I saw like a really shitty version of it with some girl's head in the way the whole time, and I couldn't really hear half of what the characters were saying in the trailer. So I don't think there's any point. I think once they actually release the initial trailer, then we'll talk about it, because then we can break it down properly and give it justice. But with a leak trailer, it's a bit, it's a bit of a mess. So we'll leave that and we'll put that to one side. But one of the big things to come out from the Marvel panel was news about the character Captain Marvel. Now, as most of you will know, listeners, by now, Captain Marvel is a big deal for Marvel because it's their first movie that will be driven by a female character. It will also be, based on what Kevin Feige's been saying about the characters, she'll also be one of the most sort of powerful and most prominent characters within the universe. But he also dropped a little nugget in there that, for 90% of people who are listening it would have gone straight over their heads. But for the 10% who are comic book fans, and for us three who are super nerds, it sent me through a tizzy. Now, I'm going to ask you guys how you reacted to this, but first off, of course, we got the announcement that the Skrulls are going to be the antagonists of the Captain Marvel movie. Now, this is a big deal, people. It's a big deal. And I'm going to let our resident comic book expert and guru Richard explain like who the Skrulls are to you. So if you don't know who they are, he can give you a brief rundown of where they come from in the comics from a comic book context. But also, guys, we'll ask you as well, like, how do you view the Skrulls in terms of the role that they'll play in the MCU going forward? Because you don't just put the Skrulls in for one movie. That's not going to happen. Like, clearly, they've put these Skrulls in here now because the Skrulls are going to play a big part. Now, we'll explain how we think they might play a big part after. But firstly, Richard, do you mind just giving a brief rundown for the listeners of like who the Skrulls are exactly, as in where did they come from and why are they so important to Marvel? So yeah, when you're ready, son, take it away.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, basically, the Skrulls are one of the two main races that were originally created in the Marvel universe, and they were kind of like the opposite. Or basically, they were a race of people that were in an actual battle with the Kree, who we have been introduced to already. Well, ever so slightly in the Guardians of the Galaxy film, and also they've been mentioned quite a bit in Agents of Shield. Is that right, Alvin?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. Okay, so basically, yeah, they're just a race of people that can basically shapeshift, and they originally came out in one of the issues of the Fantastic Four, and this is back in the day when the Fantastic Four were the corner post for the whole of the Marvel universe. So a lot of things came out from Fantastic Four. So you've got like the first appearance of Galactus, Silver Surfer, the Black Panther, and then you've got the Skrulls, and then you've got the Kree. And the Kree are basically they're just like a war that just and a war nation and a super religious nation that just like to war people for no reason.
Mm.
And they should have been the actual villain for the Avengers movie. But at that point, Marvel didn't own the rights. It was 20th Century Fox that owned the rights to that, and a lot of the franchises that might have been associated to the Fantastic Four franchise. The reason why we are going crazy is because the last time that we actually saw the Skrulls was during a very, very famous storyline called Secret Invasion. And we have this is something that we haven't touched upon, but that's easily one of the best storylines that Marvel have produced in the past. When did it come out? What, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was like
Less than that?
2007, I think, or 2006. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Something like that, I think.
Yeah. So basically, so if they're going to be going along that path, this might bring some really, really interesting changes to the actual Marvel universe, as in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Especially since the movie Captain Marvel is meant to be set in the 80s.
90s.
So it's set in the 90s, yeah?
Yeah, 90s, yeah.
90s, 80s, I'm old, innit? So like the 90s and the 80s are the same thing to me.
Oh yeah.
but they're just an interesting race, which haven't really had a lot of airtime in the comic books in the past few years, or in the cartoons for some time. And that's the best thing I can say about them. Without giving away too much, they're a shape-shifting race that have been at war with the Skrulls for years and years. That have been at war with the Kree for years and years. And that's it. I mean, I can't really say any more about them without spoiling stuff.
Well, that's all right. Thank you, bro. I mean, that gives us a good context. Is it fair to say that if you were to make like cross-franchise comparisons, is it fair to say that the Skrulls in some ways are similar to, say, the Klingon from Star Trek, in that their whole culture is built around war and the glory of war and conquest and things like that? Is that a fair comparison?
It could be a fair comparison. Like I said, I could delve into history behind it without trying to spoil it. But what it is that you find out that they were never actually a war race. They were a very, very peaceful race, and they were lulled and forced into a war mentality because of the Kree, who are a more violent race. And the reason why this was a bit of a kicker is because the Kree are, even though the Kree are split into two factions. So you've got pink-skinned Kree, then you've got blue-skinned Kree. But because they look human, people just automatically assume, they could be, the ones that are really, really good. But you find out that the Klingons, the Skrulls, were like all about knowledge and trying to spread peace and trying to spread information throughout the universe, and were forced into war. And now they have this Klingon mentality, but that's only because that's what they've had to do to survive. But yeah, that would be a very, very fair comparison to compare them to the Klingons. Like a very, very proud race, have like some amazing warriors, like the Super Skrull. But yeah, that's a very good comparison, Jason.
Cool. Thank you. But no, thank you, Richard. That makes things very, very clear. So hopefully, listeners, that at least gives you some kind of grounding as to the Skrulls and kind of why we're excited. Alvin, I've got a juicy question for you. So I hope you're ready.
Okay.
Rich, I know you didn't want to go into spoilers too much, and we will try and avoid that in terms of what went on in the comic books previously, because with the MCU, they don't necessarily take everything verbatim from the comics. They might just take a little bit here and a little bit there and then put their own spin on it. But with that in mind, Alvin, who do you think could potentially be a Skrull in the MCU universe?
Oh shit!
Oh man, that's there's no fucking answer. It could be anyone, because if this movie takes place in the 90s, it doesn't mean that whatever happens in Captain Marvel, the Skrull couldn't have returned at a later time to replace someone later down the timeline, if you get what I mean. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, if we see this movie, and obviously with it being a flashback to the 90s, we don't know. It could be Nick Fury. Who the fuck knows? Like, we essentially have no fucking idea. But it'd be silly for Marvel to appear in that one movie and not have them come back to kind of be major players later on. If they do decide to do Secret Invasion later on down the line at some point in one of the future phases. But yeah, essentially it could be anyone, depending as to when they come back, and we can find out as to when so and so was replaced.
If you had to choose, who would you choose to be a Skrull in MCU?
If I had to choose one,
yeah.
What you mean? Who I think might be one now, or who I think will?
Yeah.
Essentially,
yeah.
Who do you think could potentially be one now, as things stand in the MCU?
That's fucking difficult.
Well, I think that one of the people you already mentioned, Nick Fury.
Yeah.
You reckon Nick Fury?
Could be.
Yeah.
Because he's quite conniving, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I'd say either Nick Fury or perhaps Black Widow's quite sneaky, but I think maybe not Tony Stark. No, he's got too many issues. Yeah, I'll stick with Nick Fury just because he's just so sneaky. Yeah, you can never tell as to what angle he's playing. I mean, you end up trusting him, but he's just too much.
I think Nick Fury. Yeah, I think Nick Fury. Yeah, I think if you're gonna go for it, do somebody fairly big. You know how movies work, so they're not going to make it Tony Stark. They're not going to make it Captain America. They're a bit heavy hitters. They ain't going to do that. But I think in terms of doing it in a way that still has an impact with an audience, without kind of hurting your pillars of your universe, so to speak, then why not Nick Fury? You know, because he's in the perfect position for it. At one point, he was head of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, in this movie, apparently in Captain Marvel, we'll find out how he lost his eye, because he seems, according to Kevin Feige, he's going to have both eyes in this movie. So we may find out how that happens, and perhaps that ties into the Skrull some way as well. So yeah, I think he's a good shout. How about you, Rich?
You know who I choose? Just I'm not even thinking it through straight, right? But I'll do this. I'll make it Peggy Carter. So the Peggy Carter that we saw die, or basically that we heard that passed away in Captain America: Civil War, that was a Skrull Peggy Carter. So right now she's basically somewhere in stasis, and she gets awoken. Basically, it causes like a love triangle between Steve Rogers, Sharon Carter, and Peggy Carter, and then James Barnes. So everybody's out there who wants James and and Steve to get together. That can throw like a little bit. I love, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Listen, if we're gonna do it properly, mate. Like, then you throw James up in there as well, and so yeah. But I think that would be interesting. And that could, because it's been dealt with somebody who's gone so far back, and who's, like you said about Nick Fury, where he was the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. But then obviously, as we know, that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been around for a very, very long time. And I mean that Nick Fury, that he knew Howard Stark. So I mean, we could go back to, obviously, to the 80s and the 90s, but Peggy's been there since the beginning. So that could be something that that could very, very nicely tie into how Hydra were able to also infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, because the Skrulls were trying to set things up from day dot. Putting off some very, very some Palpatine moves and playing the long game. So that'd be interesting. I'm not sure if Peggy would actually work in the MCU. They might just bring her back just to kill her off, just to try and tie it back as far as as what I've mentioned. But that'd be an interesting move, because somebody like Nick Fury, as much as it would work, it does seem a bit too blatant if it did happen. So it'd have to be done in such a way that people like us who know how Nick Fury the character is, it has to be really, really surprising. Or maybe even bring in like the original Nick Fury, if they're going to go down that route, and that's the Nick Fury that gets killed, and basically that's the last person that Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury, trusted, and he was like, "Fuck this! I'm really going to go balls deep with this Shield thing now," and stuff like that. But yeah, but Peggy Carter is who I'd like to see to be a Skrull, just so we can have Haley Atwell back as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all in favor of bringing Haley Atwell back, no doubt. So yeah, I'm down with that. I don't know how you pull it off, but yeah, I'm down with it. All right, cool. Well, listeners, let us know who you think might be a Skrull. For those of you who are familiar with the Skrulls and what they do, because I think this one's gonna definitely rumble on, and well, basically until Captain Marvel comes out, which I think is 2018 or 19. I can't remember. Crap, it escapes me now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I've actually got an even better idea for who a Skrull could be, and it actually make fucking perfect sense. Scott fucking Buck. Scott Buck is a Skrull. Scott Buck? Is it Scott Buck? Yeah, Scott Buck. That's the.
So if you don't know who Richard's referring to, he's referring to the guy who was the head writer on Iron Fist and is currently the showrunner of the Humans TV show. So
yeah. He's a Skrull. Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense, man. Perfect sense. That would explain everything. He's just been trying to tear it and see you down from the inside.
Yeah. Easily.
Tear it down from the inside, damn it. All right, well, let's move on, man. One of the big stories that came out this week, well, it was last week, really. No, it was this week. Yeah, it was this week it came out. Was that, I don't know if you two heard this, but Disney have announced that they're going to start their own streaming service. Basically, they're going to create their own television channel, and they're going to have it as a subscription service, the same as all the others. And there's going to be very much geared towards driving a lot of their exclusive content and a lot of their IP. So, things like Marvel, like Star Wars, Pixar, all of those kind of things that they own already. Are going to get a big push on this new streaming channel, which is going to launch in 2019. Now, as a result of that, it's also come out that they are severing ties with Netflix, which means that any of the intellectual properties that Netflix have licensed from them are going to be removed by 2019. Now, there's a lot of it's not quite clear at the moment what that means for some of the Disney Netflix properties that you may enjoy now, listeners. It's still kind of being discussed. Up until today, apparently Netflix have been saying that they're negotiating with Disney to retain the rights to movies. And I think it's just movies so far. Yeah, they haven't said anything about TV shows. But it seems to be just movies for now. But they're negotiating to continue to hold on to the licensing for movies. But guys, I wanted to think just to ask you quickly, basically, whether considering the intellectual properties that Disney does have, would you be interested potentially in taking up Disney streaming service? I mean, it's another streaming service that you'd have to add on top of Netflix, Amazon, and in the UK here we don't get like Hulu and things like that, but we do get Sky streaming service, Now TV, and you get sports streaming and things like that you can buy. So with all of that available, and considering the said what Disney own, would you be potentially interested in signing up for this streaming service? Alvin, you can go first.
No, not at all. I think they've made kind of like, I understand why they want to do it, because obviously they want people to come to them for their stuff, and obviously they see it as a money making opportunity. But I really don't see the point. Like, no, just no. Like, there's no point. I don't know why. I mean, I know why they've done it, but then again, I'm like, but why though? It's like Netflix is Netflix for a reason, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, why would you even want to put kind of like the Netflix Marvel shows in jeopardy as well? Like, because like you said, we don't even properly know what's going on with those. I can't imagine those shows being on the Disney streaming service, because obviously it's be family friendly and whatnot. So I think it's a good idea, and no, it's not something I'd be interested in subscribing to.
Cool. Even if they pulled all of their intellectual properties from Netflix, so let's say they pulled the Star Wars movies from there, and they pulled.
No, because I'm a physical media kind of guy anyway, so I'd already have all those on fucking Blu-ray. So fuck him. No.
Okay, fair enough. Rich, how about you, man? How did you feel about it?
God, man, like everyone's trying to get money out of us, man. Picking it
Yep.
up. It'd have to be something really, really good for me to sign up. But then in saying that, Showbox is my best friend. So like, if they've got a whole channel, if they've got a whole channel and there's only two shows, I'm not paying like $5.99 or however much they're gonna charge, just to watch those two shows when I can download it for free. Um, I just don't think it's fair. And I mean, what we're gonna watch in it. Our main thing right now, during these negotiations are whether um the defenders, like Iron Fist, Luke Cage, all those people, is whether they're gonna be caught in that crossfire. Um, and that's still not enough for me just to pay a subscription for a streaming service. Nah, not even. I mean, to tell the truth, I've got a 5-year-old boy. Well, he's gonna be 5 tomorrow, so that could be another reason to watch it or to subscribe to it. But like I said, I download a lot of stuff, so I don't really want to give my money to Uncle Walt.
Okay.
Nah.
Oh, Bob Iger is crying tears at that. He's the
Who's
CEO of
going to
Disney.
his?
Bob Iger. He's the CEO
Oh
of
yeah.
Disney. Yeah, yeah,
Oh okay.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's quite interesting. I think because I think for me personally, it will depend on what Disney are offering. Because I've heard rumors that they're working on like a Star Wars live action TV show specifically for the channel. They're working on like sort of different things with the IPs that they have. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily say no off the bat. It would depend on the content and then obviously price as well. I mean, it depends on how much they're asking for. If it's like, oh yeah, we've got all this new shiny stuff and it's going to cost you £20 a month, or then they can kiss my backside. But if it's for a reasonable price, then maybe. Well, I guess a lot will for me will depend, as said, on kind of what Disney intends to do. They're not really showing their hand at the moment, and as said, negotiations are ongoing. So we'll wait and see. But um, I mean, how do you feel about as said, like the number of kind of streaming services? Because you kind of mentioned this as well, Rich. And I think the cost is definitely obviously an issue for us because we're adults and we have other shit to pay for as well. What would you think about like kind of Disney adding their names to the mix along with all these other streaming services that are available to us in the UK? Alvin, I know you were saying you kind of you understood why they were doing it, but you just weren't too sure about whether it was for you. Do you think if they packaged it maybe with something else, would that entice you towards doing it, like with another streaming service, maybe?
No, essentially it's just people being greedy in it. You know what I mean? It's like, and adding another kind of another voice out there, another service is just gonna make people's choices more difficult, and it's just gonna kind of like not ruin the market, but just make the market more people in the market. So it's just like, well, who the fuck do I go with? Do I get this Disney shit over here, or do I go for the Netflix or for the Amazon, or what I mean, whatever else? It just muddies the water and make things more difficult, and it might not even work out for them. Don't, to be honest, because I think most people who are into Disney shit, like, will literally buy Disney shit, or they'll have like the Disney channels on Sky already. So I don't know as to what they need a streaming service of Disney shit for. I have no idea. That it makes no sense to me.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand your point, man. I hear what you're saying. Rich, did you want to add anything before we move on?
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's move on then. Oh yeah, by the way, listeners, let us know as well what you think of Disney streaming service. Would you be interested in it if you had to pay another 7.99 or 8.99 a month for it? Would you do it? Because I know there's some big Disney fans who listen to us. So let us know what you think. Okay, let's move on, man. So we've been gaming quite a lot. As I told you before in the previous podcast, listeners, I recently got a PS4, and with that, I got Yakuza Zero, and I finally finished it. So I'm going to tell you all about that in a minute. But first of all, Rich, you recently downloaded the Destiny 2 beta, right? Did you want to
Yeah.
just give a few
Yep.
thoughts on how you found that?
Yeah. I loved it. I loved it so much that because I played. I've never number one. I've never really done online gaming.
Mm,
That's never really been me, and I've never really been a first person shoot 'em up or or that type of gaming person. I just like my one player game that has like a storyline like Metal Gear Solid or Uncharted, and I'm happy. I think I'm Indiana Jones, jump over explosions and shit like that, and I'm good. But the Destiny 2 beta was actually freaking awesome. So much so that I went out and bought Destiny 1 to try and get some practice in. Because when we did go in the beta, I got my brother to download it and I got a couple of my friends to download it, and we were just getting whooped, like just whooped differently. But I'm now officially. I wouldn't say I'm an online gamer, but I've signed up. I even tried to convince myself where it's like, hey, listen, it's the 14-day trial, and then after the 14-day trial, you cancel it, and then then it's 5.99 a month. But you know what? It's 5.99. You can just jump on and you can just start it whenever you want. So it's 5.99 for 3 months. That 14-day trial ended and the 5.99 kicked in. I can't see myself canceling that subscription. I was to sleep. Like my brother was phoning me up halfway through the day again. Hey, wait, bro, you going out tonight? And I'm like, no. He goes, you want to do some Destiny? I was like, yeah, man, let's do this, man. I was waking up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, seeing if he's online, bash it out for like an hour. That sounds wrong. Bang it out for like like an hour, and then go back to sleep. But it's a really really good game. I man, like it's definitely made a Doubting Thomas or turned a Doubting Thomas into a believer. So anybody who's out there who hasn't played Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, jump on the bandwagon. Like you won't be disappointed. So that's the best I have to say for that, man. And if you're a fan of sci-fi as well, which I am, I'm a big fan of sci-fi. You can create your own characters and you're essentially living the dream. So yeah, go do it. Join the core. Anybody who wants to play against me, I'm Valmont266. Add me as a friend, and we can go shoot up some aliens at 2 o'clock in the morning.
cool, cool. Was there
In fact,
anything
Jason, have you downloaded it yet?
I did? Yeah, I just haven't loaded it up yet, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
um, was there anything specifically about the Destiny 2 that you enjoyed in terms of like the first person shooting elements? Or was it more just like the overall kind of presentation of the story and the gameplay and everything else that's got you in it?
It was essentially that. It's just the overall presentation of everything. Where the thing that I like about it is that the character that you're playing, you have the option of playing one of three classes, but the character that you play is a character that you create yourself. So no one person or no nobody's gonna have the same type of character that you've created as well. So you would have your own markings on your costume. You can gear up your weapons and your and anything that you own. You basically modify it to yourself, and that's what I like about it. So even though you've been set up in a particular story, it's your own story, and how you choose to approach that story is makes it even better. So I know some people that have like play the game but just go on and just participate in an online game against other people and just do those things that you see on YouTube where somebody waits in like in a tree and just takes out people with sniper rifles, or you can participate in a story, but it's still going to be your story. You play it, and that's what I loved about it. And obviously the presentation as well. um the beta demo compared to like the first Destiny game, which I thought looked amazing and felt amazing, has stepped up even from there. So it's just a really really good upgrade, man. Like I can't stress it enough. And I'm one of those people, I love being involved emotionally in a game. If you haven't got me emotionally where like I'm thinking to myself like, shit, who's the character, why does this do this or why does that do that, then I don't really want to know. And Destiny has that factor to it. So yeah,
Cool.
that's the main, like it's caught me by the balls.
Mm. Cool, cool, cool. Sounds all good, man. Yeah, well, I can't wait to jump on with that. So definitely going to check that out. But yeah, as I was saying, I finished. I finished the story mode for Yakuza Zero, um, and yeah, it was pretty good, man. I enjoyed it. It was like playing the old school Yakuza on PS2. It had all the kind of the moments that I was looking for. It had the mini games. Although I will say there was like a hell of a lot of exposition in the story on this one, and I found myself skipping through a lot of it. But it's all kind of what I've just discovered is it's laying the groundwork for a reboot of the whole franchise. Basically, there's another game coming out, I think, in a week's time, actually, I think it's due out, that is essentially a remake of the first game of Yakuza, the first game that was released on PS2. But it's not just like a kind of repackage, it's a from the bottom up rebuild. So they've essentially rebuilt the entire game for the capabilities of the PS4. So they've actually expanded on the story mode, they've improved the graphics, they've improved the gameplay from the original PS2 version. They've smoothed things out a lot, so it feels like its own sort of self-existent game, basically. So I just wanted to ask you, the both of you, quickly. What are your guys' thoughts on like game reboots? Do you think they're a good idea, or do you think it's just kind of fleecing the fans? I'll start with you, Al.
You know what? It really depends because like recently they did the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, and that like literally got sold out. Like you weren't able to get it in stores for quite a while, and people seem to love it. The only people that seem to hate it are people who'd never played Crash Bandicoot before and had never realized how fucking hard platformers were back in like the mid to late 90s. But people have been clamoring for a Crash Bandicoot for a while. And apparently they got it in Skylanders, but let's face it, not a lot of us are going to play Skylanders unless they're like 8 years old. So I think in this case, something like Crash, yeah, that was a good idea to kind of re-release that, and it's all three games in one. The original Crash Bandicoot trilogy in one game, with all new graphics. Again, they had to do everything like from the ground up. So they had to recreate the game. It wasn't a case of porting it or anything like that. And I think the same thing should probably happen with like Spyro the Dragon. People want Spyro the Dragon back, and they want to play the original game. And they should just Activision should just like remake it from the ground up. But yeah, I think it can work, and I think it can be a good idea, but only when it's been a long time. So essentially, it's like being starved of food. You know what I mean? And just being given a good meal like after it's been quite a while. Because if you kind of remake a game that's like, I don't know, it's only like a year or two old, like when you see re-releases for things like The Last of Us on like the PS4, I'm a bit like, yeah, come on now, that's like you're trying to fleece people there. But whereas if it's been something that's been quite a while and you've literally had to remake it and not just port it, then fair enough.
Yeah, I hear you. Rich, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think reboots. See, the thing is, I think games that I've loved. So, like a game like Metal Gear Solid, I played the original on PlayStation 1, and then I bought Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes for the GameCube. But that added stuff to the story, and basically took up the mantle of being official canon and filling in bits and pieces for the Metal Gear afterwards. So it's that good. If you're gonna do a reboot and add a little bit more, for the old one, then why not? The Last of Us, I thought that was a bit of a piss take. Like, how long was the Last of Us remaster brought out for the PS4, for the PlayStation 3? Was it a year, 2 years?
2 years, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years. Was that about 2 years, Alvin?
2 years, and
even if that, like, because Last of Us came out towards the end of the life of the PS3. Yeah, I think it was. I think it may have been less.
So, yeah, so like so I mean, you have to be a diehard fan to buy the same game. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Last of Us looked pretty on the PS4, but I don't think it totally trounced how it looked on the PS3. I know they did the same thing with the Batman Arkham games.
Where it was a year.
Was it? It was a year.
Hello?
What did you say? It was a year, did you say?
Oh, it was a year. It was a year between them.
Yeah, see, that's a piss take. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think any form of like reboot games is gonna have to be like some form of like classic, like you said, like Spyro or Crash Bandicoot, and like you said, the games that people been asking for. Just don't fucking reboot stuff just for the hell of trying to, get a bit more bucks in your pocket. I stand on that. So I'm not really a fan of that unless it's gonna, give me something new.
Mm, mm. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, we're almost at the end of the show, but we did get a question this week that I wanted to run by you guys. So this question came to us from Joan, our regular listener. Hi, Joan. She asked us what are our top three gangster films. Now I'm a big gangster movie fan. I love gangster movies. I don't know why, and I don't know what that says about me, but there you go. So this for me is kind of easy, but I think this may be a little bit more difficult for you two. So I'm going to let you two go first. So, Richard, what would be your top three gangster films?
Top three gangster films. Number one, that's just pure. That's like cinematic. That's just pure perfection. That I think that film alone would probably be in my top 10 of greatest films of all time.
Sorry, what was your first choice? Because you cut off then when you were speaking.
Sorry, Godfather Part Two.
Oh, Godfather Part Two. Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah, Godfather Part Two. It's just pure cinematic perfection for me. And it does that thing where the sequel is better than the original, in my opinion. A lot of people would agree with me, and a lot of people would also disagree with me. But they can't knock that Godfather Part Two is an amazing film, nevertheless. Um, my second choice would be Casino.
Hmm.
I love that film. And as much as I like, the Scorsese films like Goodfellas and things like that, there's something really, really something really touches me in a human way. Like, for Casino, like how the characters are dealt with and treated. And it's the way how like De Niro kind of plays type, where he's not this badass, how he ends up is just like, he just ends up in the office and whatever. You have to see the film. But yeah, Casino would probably be about my number two. For number three, um, Jason, could City of Violence be considered a gangster movie?
Um, yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Then,
It's the plot of it is
yeah,
effectively a gangster film plot. Yeah, I don't see why not.
yeah, then basically I'd throw that up there. Um, Normally, for my third part, I'd probably choose Once Upon a Time in America. But I'm trying to vary the whole gangster films that I have on my list. So I'd put a film called City of Violence, which Jason has actually done a review on the website quite some time ago, and that's kind of like a Korean martial arts version of Once Upon a Time in America, and it basically charts a group of kids and how they grow up and how they, some of them become gangsters and some of them become police officers and some of them just become bums. But the person that they have to face off against is somebody trying to rise up even higher in the gangster hierarchy in Korea. And it's a very, very good film. And if you don't believe me, go check out Jason's review. And if that doesn't sway you, just take a chance and peep the film anyway. And if you don't like that, then go and see my honorary mention, which is Once Upon a Time in America.
Mm, mm. Yeah, good choices there, man. Good choices. Alvin, I know you were struggling with this earlier. Any clearer?
Yeah, I think I'm good now because I did a whole module of it on in media studies back in the day. So we're gonna go with obviously Goodfellas,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna go with also Donnie Brasco,
Ah, yes,
and
that's
then
great.
third and finally Bugsy Malone, the gangster movie. I don't care what anyone fucking says.
It is.
Definitely a
It
gangster
is.
It is a
movie.
gangster movie. No, no, it is. It's a gangster
People
movie.
get creamed and everything.
It's a classic, man. Bugsy Malone is great. Great. Like that always goes down well in my house. So yeah, no, definitely I'll go with that. Top three for me. Okay, this is kind of tricky because I said I love gangster movies, but I think I've narrowed it down. So completely unoriginal to the both of you two. Number one would probably have to be Goodfellas. Like that film just blew my mind when I saw it. And I do love Casino as well, but Goodfellas just is the film that really kind of established Martin Scorsese. It's the film that established Robert De Niro. It just kind of, well, it didn't really establish De Niro, but it solidified him, as a real talent as an actor. And it's just mind blowing. The film's just mind blowing. So yeah, that would be number one. Number two would be City of God, from Brazil. Again, another film that I watched it and was just blown away. Especially when you consider that half of that cast weren't even professional actors. They were essentially just playing themselves. Um, and it's such an emotional film as well, and it does what all good gangster films should do, which is it kind of charts the rise and fall of certain characters, and also shows you how somebody who doesn't want to be in that life can get out of that life through having a talent or a passion. um, so it kind of shows you, that the gangster life doesn't necessarily have to always end in your death. It can end in a way where, somebody is able to go on and do something productive with themselves. So, yeah, City of God is number two. And number three, I think we'll go to, I've got to come with a left field choice, but I think it's going to go to Gomorrah, which is an Italian movie, and it's about the Naples mafia, the Camorra, as they're known. Um, and that film is just brilliant. What it does really well is it kind of explains how the modern day mafia works, because we all know about how organized crime syndicates control things like drugs and illegal kind of goings on within the world, illegal industries and things like that. But Gomorrah shows you how the camera actually controls politics. It shows you how they control a simple thing like rubbish collection, in the city of Naples. Basically, they control that, and if it doesn't happen in the way that it should, then they start kicking off and causing problems for the locals. So it becomes a major issue for people who are living there. So um, yeah, Gomorrah is everything that gangster movie should be. It's complex, it's violent, it's just beautiful to look at because it's shot entirely in Naples. And the filmmakers behind it were almost murdered by the Camorra as well, because the Camorra wanted to kill them
Shit.
when they found out that they were making a film about what they do, because they're like, hey, what are you doing? You're exposing everything we do to the world. So yeah, definitely. If you've never seen Gomorrah before, listeners, go and check that out. It's a really, really good movie. It's available everywhere. So yeah, run and check that movie out, man. Top movie. All right, that's gonna do it, man. Let's wrap this thing up because we've been going for a little while now. So thank you, listeners, for joining us for this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back again next week, of course. Um, we didn't have a question of the week that we put out to all of you this week, but we will be putting one out this week. So make sure you follow us on our social media. You can. The question usually goes up on our Instagram account, which is Wulong Talks. So if you have an Instagram, follow us there. And it will also go up on our Facebook page as well, which is Wulong Talks, plain and simple. So if you type that in Facebook, then you'll find us there. And of course, we're on Twitter as well. Alvin, anything you wanted to plug what you're doing on your channel?
Yeah, you can just get me on Twitter and Instagram at Big85GL. You can check out my YouTube if you want. Post some videos on there regularly, random shit, just as and when, and yeah.
Cool, cool. And Rich Kid, you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, Instagram on Rich Reviews, Twitter Rich Reviews. Obviously, we've got the Instagram Wulong Talks, the website www.wulongtalks.com, as Jason said as well. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool.
Oh, and on Destiny, Valmont266. Add
Oh
me.
yeah, I was going to
Give me a
say, let
shout.
people know how they can hit you up, man. So, so if you look like shooters and first-person shooters and want to go and toss some frag grenades at Rich, then just add him up on PlayStation Network, and I'm sure you'll be happy to blow your head off anytime soon. All right, let's wrap this thing up, man. So I'm going to say goodnight. Say goodnight, Rich.
Good night, Rich.
Say goodnight, Alvin.
See you later.
Cool. And we're out here, people. So thanks a lot again for joining us. And as I said, we'll see you next week, man. So peace out.